Chapter 44 More from the Holgersen family. The drones sweep over the house. New times. An ordinary day. Benny Novak Holgersen on his way to work. He had worked as a journalist at a local newspaper for a few years, but had developed a growing interest in the city's volunteer music scene. He liked organizing events. And for that reason he was welcome at all kinds of local arrangements of that sort. He had studied music at conservatories and colleges and was a competent pianist. Benny H., as we will call him from now on, is generally a pleasant person, although some people are irritated by his always positive take on this and that. Benny H. wants to please everyone, not by flattering or fawning, but simply because he is fundamentally positive towards all people. He gets disappointed by some people's behavior, but he moves on, smoothing over controversies and building on what is constructive. Benny H. spent much of his childhood alone. Why? Because his mother was often ill, seriously ill, tuberculosis, cancer, and more. She was also exploited by others because she was a yes person, without boundaries. She wore herself out trying to please others. This is a known phenomenon in psychiatry. People who think people-pleasing is good lose themselves, and in the worst cases, it destroys them. And yes, that is what happened to Benny's mother. Benny's father had a completely different, almost inborn, attitude. He expected the people around him to do things for him. He was someone who needed sacrifice from others, completely opposite of his wife. One can imagine why Benny's mother and father were compatible. A long story of suffering was the foundation of their marriage. In the beginning, there were obviously dramatic scenes, with the dream woman finding her alpha male and their surroundings offering full support and admiration. The euphoria faded quickly and heavy. Dysfunctional periods followed. New territories were considered a solution, and Oslo became the next goal. As newcomers from the West Coast, their meeting with the capital was harsh. But Father Holgersen was persistent and, with a lot of fuss, managed to keep the family together. They established themselves in the middle class in Oslo with a home and steady work. That is, Mr. Holgersen had secured a steady job. This was the 1950s, while Mrs. Holgersen was a homemaker. That was the norm then. Then came the changes of the 60s and 70s. Women entered the workforce. First part-time, then eventually full-time. Women had the same education as men and entered working life easily. Eventually, it became an overall expectation that women worked outside the home. The Holgersen family was a typical 1970s family. Their son, Benny Novak, was the exception. He was a hopeless dreamer and loved music. Music. There was no future in music. Benny's father was a pragmatist and strongly disliked his son's interest, although he himself admired the great masters, Chopin, Beethoven, Grieg, and the rest. He knew that dedication to the arts could bring great personal worth. He himself admired Ibsen, Hamsun, Hoem, and many others. He had wanted to become a writer and, alongside his journalistic career, wrote several books. He was a man of words. Deep down he understood his son. He was, of course, afraid of the financial consequences such a career path might bring. Both of Benny's parents had their struggles but tried to make daily life as good as possible. Still, it cannot be denied that serious conflicts struck the family. Benny's sister developed severe anxiety problems in her early teens. The insecurity at home meant that Benny became socially incompetent in the sense that he skipped school and fled to the woods on weekdays. When the truancy came to light and the school notified Benny's parents, there was a regime change at home. It didn't last long. Both Benny and his sister completed school and eventually earned their degrees, but left home and lived the carefree student life. That is, Benny was more restrained and worked a lot on the side, as a cleaner, postman, and taxi driver. He earned good money. This was the 1970s, and he saved diligently, financing his own studies in Norway and abroad without support from anyone. He bought his first apartment in cash, in the middle of Oslo, in 1979, and got a director's job at the conservatory the same year. He was self-reliant. Therefore, starting a family was a natural step for Benny Novak Holgersson. The family functioned well in the local community, until the silent drones began circling over the house. No one knew what these devices were capable of.